Dune Spice Wars, a smaller, more laid-back 4X RTS hybrid from the developer of Nordgard. This game has interesting factions, functional diplomacy, and a dynamic economy. Most of you are here because of the movies, so you know the world and lore are solid. Let's see how it actually plays. If you only wish to hear the conclusion of this review, you may skip towards the end of the video to the appropriately named section. For the rest of us, let's see what this game is all about. What is the main thing here? Well, spice. How important is it? In our world, the British created an empire stretching from the land of fast food all the way to Kabunga, my dude, with the sole purpose of obtaining them. In this universe, however, they're not used for justifying Gordon Ramsay's behavior, but to enable space travel. So, in other words, most of the ships in this world are piloted by Scooby Snack addicted Shaggies. I see no potential repercussions here. However, obtaining this consequence-free purple substance is a little bit more complicated. You see, it is only found on the planet Arrakis, which would be problematic enough with the planet being nothing more than sand in a frying pan, but also because it is synthesized by local worms. Okay, like silkworms making silk, right? How is that complicated? Well, because these worms are not small enough to be hidden in a bamboo and stolen by the Byzantines to start their own silk industry. No, they range from do not worry, the big ones hurt, all the way to the size I would ask the genie for. Also, whoever designed this has weird taste. Anyway, spice. So the point of the game is to ensure that you and no one else has access to this happy powder. There are 5 ways to do so. Domination, good old genocide. Hegemony, proving you are the best by accumulating golden points. Political, convincing everyone to proclaim you as the best for no reason whatsoever. Economic, becoming the market everyone sells their spice to. And assassination, where you make new players go, what on earth did just happen? As far as the visuals go, they're okay. They hold up even when you zoom in enough to give the unit a hug, and at normal levels of zoom, the game models and map look quite good. There is also a I am now in outer space zoom, which changes the interface, allowing for quick and clean management. Leader models are satisfactory. However, there are only 3 animations, which are getting on my nerves considering I'm seeing them every time I wish to trade my intel for some scrap. The fact that it transitions instantly like some ninth stage Parkinson enjoyer trying to learn modern dancing is not helping. Overall, the artwork is real good, and while the graphics will not be winning any awards, I will not complain. The music, while limited, is impressive. It can be best described as mysterious sci-fi piano explores the abyss. Jesper Kyd composed a lot of tracks for games that are as awesome as his name. The unit voice lines are interesting and full of character, regardless if it is the mercenaries whose main interest is in their paycheck, which is used to purchase many things except fucks to give, the Chad Sardaukar reminding you every 3 seconds they are the best at everything, or the pompous knights acting as if having a stick up your ass can pass for a personality. All of these quality voice lines help with unit and faction identity. A quick thing to note is a slight touch of realism, which is odd to find in a sci-fi game. You will fully experience the hot deserts of Dune so vividly that one might even feel the heat of the planet. This is because the game can only run in 2 modes. I will proceed to replace your house's central heating system, or your FPS cannot reach a number higher than that of Age of Consent. The closest thing to a campaign is Conquest. You pick your favorite flavor of colonialism and then proceed to fight through randomly generated missions. The weird objectives, map layouts, and opportunities for upgrades make for an interesting but overshadowed game mode. Now, multiplayer is where the fun is, as well as the newest source of my unyielding and unending rage, as one does in multiplayer. Let's get through the basics first. You start with your heavily armed main base, in which you can make unique buildings and an ornithopter. You use this physics-defying contraption to reveal new territories, as well as to find points of interest and villages. Apparently, the idea of seeing something without being physically near it is a technology of the Dark Imperium, and long lost to the Mechanicus. You can capture said villages by methods worthy of a civilization 20,000 years into the future. By no, 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 no. March your legions, literally gladius stab and tax them. And for those of you wondering why is there melee combat in a universe where ships are capable of mass destruction, the reason is If Star Wars managed to get away with it, so can we. Your villages are responsible for producing all kinds of things. Knowledge for unlocking new ways to pretend your IQ is higher than the planet's temperature. Water so your units can traverse the deserts without doing Bear Grylls things. Money, just because. And if you're lucky enough for the area to be blessed by purple pixels, you can harvest the one and only spice. Now, this non-recreational substance has only two purposes: to be sold for money or to pay taxes. Yeah, you see, it does not matter if you are the literal emperor, outlaws, or just people outside the empire. That is because the guild technically owns everyone and only cares about the spice flowing. If you think otherwise, just know this: the game does not have BC and AD, it has BG and AG, which is before and after the birth of the guild. They have quite a carrot and stick approach, giving buffs if you pay and nasty debuffs if you don't. Also, worms are a thing, straight up deleting your spice harvesters like some old cranky retiree screaming, "Get off my lawn!" Except this one commits mass murder. Furthermore, units walking through non-solid ground can attract these versatile diet beasts, forcing you to right-click to the nearest village and hope the AI is not dumb. The natives can sometimes raid you, although you can trade and befriend them, and rebels also land on the planet, which can be killed for cash. Well, okay, so you capture real estate, build buildings, and produce resources to turn into units and unlock technologies. How do you form friendships with other players? Well, you see, just like in real life, not all villages are made equal, some being better than others. So, naturally, you'll be racing the other players and ending the lives and independence of the people around you should the least bit of oil, I mean spice, be present. Unlike most RTSs, warfare here seems more like military conflicts rather than wars. It's like school kids fighting over who gets to sit in their favorite bench, but at the end of the day, they all still coexist in the same classroom. Sometimes they go too far, just ask the Americans, and then the police has to step in, embodied here as the Landsrat. Now, this is technically an institution representing all factions that mostly ensure fair play between them. Mind you, they do not enforce peace, merely ensure that during house feuds they engage in the honorable act of stabbing each other rather than going Canada levels of war crimes. They also enforce some rules like the banning of AI with varying degrees of success equal to that of the UN enforcing human rights, where your proximity to the equator line determines whether you are mining Bitcoin or diamonds. Moreover, this little homeowner association wannabe organizes regular meetups in order to exercise what little influence they have, as most inept people do when given power, forcing others to do their bidding because nobody actually paid attention to them as a child. In-game, this manifests through the Council, a repeating event that sees you choose between three random agendas affecting either everyone or specific players. You do this by voting, each faction having a number of free votes that can be further boosted by paying a slow-to-generate resource, influence. Now, every faction is different. If you play the privileged Imperials, you get 100 free votes. If you play the Smugglers, you start with nothing but can earn up to 50 through hard work. And lastly, if you play the marginalized people with a complex melanin, you do not have any voting rights. There are also abilities in this game which can be used with intel earned by your spies, enabling actions ranging from wall hack all the way to the sandworms are coming. The last thing to talk about is the stock market, the CHOAM. This contraption is the part of the Space Guild responsible for trading, and in pulling a Universe card, you can start owning it. After every tax cycle, it adds new shares that all players can buy or sell, with varying and dynamic pricing. For those of you unaware how the financial system works, neither do I just watched The Wolf of Wall Street. And I can tell you right now, they got one thing right. That yellow line will be the determining factor of your happiness and success. Once again, not all factions are equal here, some starting with more shares than others. Actually, let's get into factions. Firstly, the Imperials, House Corrino, led by the Padishah Saddam IV, a Persian term for great sovereigns combined with a name one Hussein away from something not so great. Jokes aside, cultural blending and inspiration from historical civilizations is a staple in Dune. This is the Playtol faction, having bigger and better villages that become more expensive the further away from the main base you are. Normally this is not the case because this requires Princess Irulan being picked as counselor, a mechanic that I have not and will not talk about. because if we are given the option to choose between 4 faction buffs, we always pick the same ones. So, might as well treat them as if they are part of the base faction. They also get to call another spaceship as a second base, further boosting their defensiveness, which makes me wonder, if you have a flying ship out there the size of a city, why not just death ray everyone from orbit instead of just hitting them over the head again and again? The army responsible for the hitting is formed out of brainwashed conscripts, backed up by the elite Sardaukar, which can be passed around the table for all of your friends to enjoy for the modest sum of 500 cash. You have access to artillery drones that are long-range monsters, which, once deployed under the protection of one of your 2 bases, makes your defense that much easier and your enemies that much angrier. Lastly, your capital ship is like having the biggest dick in a lesbian bar. While quite impressive, it is quite useless. It has the ability to move your troops between it and your bases, which is pointless considering you are a defensive faction, and only shoots air. Apparently, this faction can look down on people, but not shoot in the same direction. Late game, you can unlock one of 2 heroes. Captain Ramsham, a strong fighter, which buffs your Sardaukar. However, no one really picks him due to your armies being formed of conscripted meat shields backed up by the artillery of God. And the Princess Wencessia Corrino, who can heal your aforementioned meat shields and help recruiting them while taking less damage when being surrounded by them. A true simp queen. Their unique operation is calling missile strikes. Gameplay with Corrino includes what the fuck am I supposed to build in this last extra building spot? I have too many conscripts to fit in here, the worms will eat some. I have right-clicked my entire army on that village and now artillery is in melee range, combining missile strikes forcing the enemy to leave the area with sandworm bait operations making them unable to leave the area. Therefore, the enemy hopes he turns into Schrödinger's cat, having one area make more plascrete than all other players combined, and lastly trying to find the exact pixel that would let me deploy my goddamn base. Next up, Atreides. They stand for honor and duty and are led by Duke Leto, the total opposite of the Joker performance from the actor of the same name. They mostly have powers interacting with the Landshred and receive bonuses when affected by the resolutions. Politically, everyone likes these submissives due to the fact that they can establish agreements during peace at no cost, buffing everyone involved, further incentivizing them to maintain the peace. Their political doctrine revolves around giving away free stuff so they do not get spanked, although they might enjoy that regardless. In case someone's disposition regarding them leans more towards removing their entrails rather than painting them white, they can also just use their safe word, which has a surprising degree of success, forcing them into a truce. Their military is made up of relatively expensive but strong units, of whose armor and health allow them to take as much abuse as their personality. Should you somehow get these chunky boys punished past the allotted amount, the Atreides drone is capable of storing their bodies inside of it, unable to leave, probably chained to the hospital bed, until the proper amount of care and love is shown. Their capital ship has the same thematic abilities. As far as hero choices go, Duncan Idaho is one that likes being put down, coming back stronger every time, which no one ever really chooses due to heroes being expensive to revive. And Gurney Halleck, a frontliner that provides units with buffs depending on their experience levels, cranking the possible amount of abuse that your units can withstand to Rihanna levels. Their unique operation is called Ceasefire, which stops combat in an area. Historically, Voices in the Skies have so far compelled people to kill each other, but hey, this is sci-fi, I guess. Their unique ability allows them to take over a village without attacking them, however, considering it costs influence, is much slower and denies you the opportunity of rewards through slaughtering the innocent in the forms of combat XP, it is rarely used. Overall, they are a solid and safe, if rather boring faction. Their gameplay will include: my support drone was too far away and therefore unable to save that guy. Why does this player refuse free agreements? And you have to do Azkaban levels of waiting time until you are able to declare war on me. Then there's the vile Harkonnnen, a house of espionage, unregulated industry, and tyranny. In case you did not realize these are the bad guys, they gave their leader a Russian name, Baron Vladimir. The man most known in the movies for his desire to be a balloon, which not only shaped his attractive form, but also culminated in him levitating. This faction's production increases the more militias they have in a city, because why actually work when you can commit violence? Their unique ability, which for some manpower can enhance a village's production while causing a minor revolt. This process can be automated through a building later on. Thank God, because I do not have enough Korean blood to be subjected to this kind of micro. Their counselors ensure they have spies to spare, which is a good thing because they will spare none, considering they can sacrifice them for bonuses, a faction staple. This leads to having quick and cheap operations, making them excellent at assassinating you. Diplomatically, they can corrupt a Landsraad resolution to cause a reputation loss for any winner other than themselves. Modeled after the ideology, if I cannot have Testoy, nor should anyone else. Their military is formed from a bunch of units with the lifespan of a moth, that have bonuses when at low health or after death. Their capital ship spawns drones, not the US version but the Habibi one, aka they go boom. Both heroes here are viable. Close Raban gives one more militia and can heavily buff your units at the cost of turning them into the drugged up uncontrollable freaks they always wished to be, and Yakin Nefud, which makes your units more disposable than Imperial conscripts, refunding part of their cost on death, and provides buffs to himself for said deaths. An interesting faction that inflicts as much pain on itself as on the enemy. Gameplay includes: I forgot that I revolt for the last 15 minutes. I have built too many buffing buildings and I am now out of manpower. I have the most experienced army in the game due to the systematic killing of my own people. My army won a battle, mostly by killing itself, time to build a new one. And finally, my income ranges between Spice Lord and student debt due to random revolts. Now to the self-important House Ecaz, a house stuck in medieval times, ruled by our Duchess Armanda. I did not think they would have the balls to give the most socially backward faction this color. Pink, that is. They can surround one neutral village to turn it into a resort, buffing other villages. Politically, they have 30 free votes for each of the 3 Landsraad resolutions. They can also choose one such resolution to be immune to, effectively making them impossible to remove from any power once achieved. This is backed up by the most bullshit military in the game. Squires are that one embarrassing memory from high school, because it will not go away no matter how many times I hit the head. Musketeers cannot probably count up to the enemy's armor and therefore just ignore it. Knights should be tanky units, but they are a glass cannon that have more output than the entire enemy army. Fencers' only capability is in damaging my ears though. The War Banner and the capital ship, the Monument, buff friendlies and debuff enemies through music. What are they even playing? Fencer voice lines? They can also name one unit as Village Idiot for 20% extra stats. Their choice of hero is not really a choice. Whitemore Blood is a Village Idiot unit that allows you to name one more Village Idiot and buffs this Village Idiot's. Ilesa Ecaz, on the other hand, ensures manpower generation, buffs allied units to insane amounts while near friendly territory, and has a weird quirk that when killed makes the enemy lose a lot of reputation. Why is this good considering I have mentioned reviving heroes being expensive? Because she has a cooldown for free instant revival. Just utter bullshit. Gameplay includes: this unit has 80% damage reduction, this unit has infinite damage, you must build additional pylons, and I have scouted a new area, now the entire resort planning is ruined. The Romanian faction, led by the appropriately named Esbar. They have no penalties regarding distance when conquering new villages, however they grow more expensive as they own more of them. So, you get to choose the excellent villages, but that angers the neighbors. However, that is not the only thing that will anger them. You get more resources when pillaging, you steal part of the enemy's spice production when you have a village next to them, and can install underworld headquarters in their villages, which give you resources depending on their production. These guys turn stealing into national pride. Their military falls off a bit during the later stages of the game, but still functions. You have access to varying stealth options and high damage units. Just like with the Atreides, your drone stores corpses, but unlike the aforementioned purpose of revival, here it is so you can sell them. My only question: who on God's not-so-green earth buys them? Your capital ship does AoE damage to biological units through what can only be described as war crimes. This might be leading you to think they are weak versus mechanical, but no. They can take, melt down, and sell anything made out of steel. When Corrino deploys their second ship, revealing this hunk of metal high in the sky for everyone to see, I'm surprised the smugglers don't just dismantle and auction it before ever making planetfall. As for heroes, you may choose to play Peekaboo with Drisk, who gives free operations from time to time, stealth, and disengagement opportunities, or Banner G, who is stronger while outside your territory and can instantly recruit some front lines and buff them. The unique operation just teleports their units back to base, allowing you to escape the planet authorities with your hard-earned loot. Well, it was earned by someone. Starting with no lance rat votes, but earning up to 50 and later being able to place bounties incentivizing other players to vote their way. They are underwhelming when it comes to diplomacy, being more adept at taking your stuff rather than asking for it. Gameplay includes why am I making so much money, salivating when seeing two other players go to war, miscalculating and having your units die to supply, the AI is too weak, the players are too strong, and I have stolen everything and smuggled nothing. Lastly, the Fremen, the most original naming out of all the factions, not to be confused with the natives that can raid from sieges, the Fremen. These are Fremen natives that can raid you from their siege. Okay. They are led by Liet Kines, who, just to add to this fiesta, is an agent of the Emperor not native to the planet. They are a hybrid between Cossack nomadic culture, integrating both their warrior nature and their direct attitude, and the Arab one, taking inspiration from their religion and customs. To add a final touch to their aesthetics, their eyes are blue due to living near spice for far too long, which honestly just sounds like a bad excuse you'd tell the cops. As for gameplay, their villages are downright bad, although they can acquire a decent number of them and produce a decent amount of water. They use the Shai-Hulud, the worms, to fast travel instead of airports and ships. In other words, they're not allowed on planes and are forced to use underground methods to travel. And lastly, have an easier time allying the locals and better bonuses when doing so, probably due to having the same damn faction name. Furthermore, to double down on the homeless aspect, they can deploy harvesting teams to collect spice anywhere on the map, which does not require ownership. The downside? They are less efficient, especially later on when compared to fully built villages, and while not angering the worms, they will anger players. When it comes to their military, these blue-eyed not white dragons are a menace in melee range, culminating with the Fredakin, a relatively tanky AoE Beyblade. However, their anti-air capabilities come in the form of a donkey carrying a missile launcher. High-tech stuff. Their capital ship is they have a capital ship and donkeys. Okay, whatever. It is customizable and interesting, but all flying units require spare parts which are hard to obtain. And their economy does not exist outside buffing their units and generating water. Their first hero, Chani Kines, buffs units in various ways during stealth, which Fremen have multiple ways to access. And Otheim, clearly the better choice, that heavily reduces enemy damage and has a strong ability that provides damage and damage reduction to allies. Moments with the Fremen include, they took over one of the 50 areas that I have mining spice. Oh boy, here I go killing again. I am winning every battle but losing the war. Oh shit, they have a flying unit. And I have spent my charges for fast travel and currently the village under attack is a few light years away. And these are all the factions. Yeah, all of them. Okay, fine, there's Vernius, but I mean, they're stupid with their nodal network and making their area look like a damn noodle, rampant use of AI, and using toasters for spies. Not to mention their most OP features, the fact that their allies get all text they have researched. Everything is stupid and I just hate them, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I do not own the DLC. Overall, Dune Spice Wars is a great strategy game combining some 4X and RTS elements to create an interesting experience. It offers a decent single player with skirmish and conquest modes, but it mostly shines in multiplayer. The game visuals and audio is serviceable, and I'm pretty sure Shiro Games is going to keep updating it. It costs 35 euros, it goes down to 18 during regular sales. Not sure if I can recommend this one though, unless this seems like the kind of game that you would play. This is all about this game. Happy grazing until the next video.